Gentleman from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the ranking member for your leadership this afternoon. Again, as someone who was a small employer for 27 years and provided health benefits for my staff, I am acutely aware of the challenges in the small business market, which long predate passage of the Affordable Care Act, and which is still something that we can do better in terms of helping folks deal with this issue, which again is so important because small businesses are the job creators in the American economy. But what I want to sort of point out is that this legislation, in my opinion, is just a complete misfire. Let's first of all remind everyone there are over 670 association health plans existing in America today. The notion that the Affordable Care Act somehow is smothering or stifling association health plans is in fact just factually false. I mean, there are many that are in business providing coverage, as has been said by some of the prior speakers, for people in like industries like restaurants, et cetera. So again, we're not talking about some existential threat that's out there in terms of association health plans today. The guts of this bill is really, it's quite extraordinary coming from, again, the Republican Party, is to preempt state governments from having any say over the solvency and the benefit design of plans that operate under association health plans. Back in the 1990s, there was a spate of problems with association health plans going belly up because, again, there was no state insurance solvency standards to make sure that there were funds set aside to pay the bills of people who were employed in the businesses that these plans were set up to serve. So as a result, Congress acted. We basically said that the federal government was doing a lousy job in terms of protecting patients, and we gave states the ability, through their state insurance departments, to make sure that certain solvency standards were met, and as said earlier, that they're not going to be able to cherry pick just the healthiest and leave the rest for other segments of the health insurance industry. So as a result of the fact that we made this change, again, the state insurance commissioners all across America, Republican states and Democratic states, have weighed in. They sent a letter on February 28th pleading with Congress not to do this, not to pass this bill, which eliminates their ability to protect the citizens of their states. So this bill is actually an anti-states' rights bill because it's basically saying the federal government is just going to step in and wipe out the way in which these plans operate and just leave, again, a race to the bottom, the lowest threshold of protection for patients. And that's considered health care reform or somehow advancing the ball in terms of helping small businesses. There are many other ways to deal with this issue, and this is not the right one. Again, this is not some new idea that we're debating. This has been back and forth over the years, the 1990s and the early 2000s. It predates the Affordable Care Act by decades, and it's just an old chestnut that's being thrown out on the floor in the name of some idea to sound like we're doing something for small businesses. Again, under the Affordable Care Act, we set up a 50% tax credit for businesses that qualify for it to make health insurance affordable. I did 2 town halls back in my district. I had a plumber from the next town over who, again, took advantage of that 50% tax credit. He saved thousands of dollars in terms of providing health benefits for his small business. We can expand that tax credit to get a wider universe of small businesses. That's what we should be doing. We should be building on what is successful. Again, not watering down existing patient protection, consumer protection laws that ensure that plans are actually going to have enough funds to pay the bills when people get sick or go to hospital, and certainly not to be able to cherry pick what benefits are considered essential or not. We should not be allowing health plans to decide we're not going to cover maternity or we're not going to cover, some kind. 30 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, I'd yield the gentleman an additional minute.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. That they can pick and choose what essential benefits that, again, the rest of the universe of businesses have to provide now under the Affordable Care Act, which are, again, based on sound medical research, not political decisions or not just the whims of people who are running health plans like association health plans. So again, this is the wrong approach. This is, again, turning the clock backwards. It's not going to provide any protections, and it certainly is not responding to some existential threat of association health plans. 672 are in operation today. Let's help them with programs like tax credits. Let's not just sort of turn that whole sector of the health insurance marketplace into the Wild West, because it's patients who are going to lose. Our citizens are going to lose. We can do better than that as a Congress. Again, I strongly urge a no vote on this measure, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves his time. Gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now yield 2 minutes to the Chairman of the Health, Employment, Labor, and Pension Subcommittee, Mr. Walberg from Michigan.
Gentleman's recognized.
I thank the gentlelady and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of H.R. 1101, the Small Business Health Fairness Act, a bill that will help people in Michigan and across the country by expanding affordable coverage for workers and their families. I want to thank our colleague, Representative Sam Johnson, for introducing this legislation, and I really enjoyed hearing Sam and his comments talk about this being common sense. Sam Johnson defines common sense and patriotism. He has tirelessly championed this bill for years, and it is a privilege to join him in pushing for these positive reforms. Mr. Speaker, health care in this country has become simply unaffordable for far too many small businesses and working families. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act has proved to be an utter failure for most people in the United States. It is snowballing out of control and rolling over working families and small businesses. 95% of small businesses have reported increased health insurance costs over the past 5 years. And a 2015 study by the National Federation of Independent Businesses found that the cost of health insurance is the principal reason that small businesses do not offer coverage. As a result, since 2008, 36% of small businesses with fewer than 10 employees have stopped offering health care coverage to their employees. It's not that they don't want to offer health care benefits. The truth of the matter is that small businesses have been hit especially hard by the government takeover of health care. Under Obamacare, the working families I speak to in my district are paying more for less and finding they have fewer options for coverage. H.R. 1101 is a key part of the third phase of our efforts to reform our health care system so it works for all Americans. It aims to increase the negotiating power of small businesses so they can bring down health insurance costs for their employees. Right now, small businesses are often on an unequal playing field with larger companies and unions. Because they have fewer employees, small businesses have limited bargaining power when it comes to negotiating for lower insurance costs for their workers. This bill levels the playing field for small businesses, allowing them to band together. May I request 30 more seconds?
I'll yield the gentleman 15 seconds.
Thank you. To band together through association health plans and negotiate the best deal to provide health care at a lower cost. It also represents an important step forward, purchasing health insurance across state lines. Today's vote is an immediate first step to help job creators provide affordable health care options to their employees and a transition toward a patient-centered health care system, and I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. I yield back.
Gentlelady reserves her time.